The future of work and leadership always starts with us. Welcome to the Dr. Ginny Show. Let's dive in. Hello, my friends, and welcome back to the Dr. Ginny Show. I had the privilege this week to visit with Bank of America, and I was part of the Business Women Leadership Summit. And I met so many wonderful entrepreneurs, fellow Dominicanas like me, and women who are there helping women. And it felt so great to be amongst them and to connect with them, to learn more about their origin of their business and what they're up to and how they're collaborating. And as I walked away, of course, one of the number one things I always do is to share what I'm learning with my community. So when I got back, I actually posted something on LinkedIn that you may have seen where I shared what one of the experts was sharing with us about the economy and how AI is going to impact the workforce. Now, many of us have already been hearing about AI and how it's going to transform the workplace. What I walked away with was this sense of feeling very empowered to share the message loud and clear with my clients, with my partners at organizations that I support, and new partnerships that I will be creating in the future about how we can get in front of the tsunami so that we don't get wiped by the wave, but instead we are far off the shore when that wave hits us in a way that we don't want it to. So the way that I described to my community when I wrote this LinkedIn post was that we are now facing the reality that there's 1 million users of ChatGPT every single hour. This is something I learned from Felix Chan, who was one of the speakers at the conference. He also shared with us that the research is showing that 65% of the jobs of the future haven't yet been created, and that 1 billion jobs will need to be upskilled. And that means a third of the jobs will require upskilling. My friends, the change isn't coming. The change is here. So I want to have a very intimate conversation with you, our audience today, about how to get in front of this so that we're not one, left behind, or two, replaced. So let's have this conversation. What can we possibly do to get in front of this? I'm going to talk about this from the lens of influence and visibility. And I'm choosing these two topics because they are actually at the core of the masterclass that I am actually going to teach. By the time you hear this podcast, it may already have passed. The Elevate Masterclass will focus precisely on diving into why is it important to us leaders to raise our influence and visibility. And here's why. When we are spearheading initiatives, when we are the voice that creates the vision for our teams, if we ourselves are feeling fearful of what the future will bring because number one, it's unknown to us. Number two, because it's unknown to us, it's uncomfortable and we don't really have the answers. And in many cases, our identity has been so tied to knowing everything that we reject it because it makes us question our identity. We're going to be in trouble. As a leader who is in this new way of working, the new era of AI is going to be critical for us to become learners. And this can be very challenging when we are considered experts and we see ourselves as the experts in the room. So I want to help you remove this connection between you being a senior, a competent, a talented leader, and you being a learner. Because if you follow all the big minds in the world, you know that every person who's a thought leader, who is prominent, who is knowledgeable, is that way because they never stop learning. So I'm going to invite those of us who are not learners to get on the bandwagon of being a learner. And that means absorbing and consuming all the information that you can. We have now the support of technology to distill information for us so that we don't have to spend hours upon hours consuming content. We can ask ChatGPT to take an article that is multiple pages or a thick report and give us the gist, a comprehensive gist, and even ask ChatGPT to help me explain this subject so that I sound like the expert and also can explain it to a 6-year-old. And when we do that, we are actually the consumers of that information. We get to go deeper in whatever that area that we want to expand is. And we are leveraging the technology itself to help us become better learners so we can learn smarter, faster, better. So that's one application and one mindset shift that I'm inviting you to make in today's podcast, in our conversation. The second shift that I want to bring to you and the information, the knowledge that I would like for you to walk away with is that as senior leaders and as leaders, no matter at what level of the organization, we need to be able to influence our teams. We need to bring them on board. We need to understand their fears about the changes and the transformations that are coming to my role, to their role, and to everyone within the organization. So the way that we can influence people is, number one, we need to understand them. Many of the questions that I receive as an expert in this area of leadership and adopting new technology and becoming more adaptable as leaders is, Ginny, how do we deal with people who refuse to get on board? People who don't want to embrace the change? How do we deal with that? And my answer to them is you get clear on what it is that you are trying to enlist them to do, and then you solicit their feedback. And by doing that, you begin to hear from them what are the objections that they have, yourself included. Start to ask yourself the empowering questions. What's behind that? What is it about this change that scares me? What is it about the change that could be constructive? So that people begin to sell themselves on how come we need to change. And when we do this and we listen after we ask the questions, we can then begin to create messages and communication with our team, whether as a group or one-on-one, that will address their concerns, where you share your vision. And as you share the vision, you're also sharing the objections and how you're going to handle the objections. So for example, you can say, we're going to launch this initiative so that we can integrate these processes. And I know some of you may be thinking, but Ginny, how are we going to tackle this thing? And I've thought about it. And we don't know exactly how we're going to do that yet, but together we're going to figure it out. But know that I know that this is something that concerns you. You see how now you begin to build trust with your team, with your audience, if we talk about it generally, when you begin to let them know that you understand where they're coming from, that you're not naive about how they feel about the change. But this is not going to happen unless you have the vulnerability to ask for insights. Notice we're shifting language from feedback to insights. How are they thinking about the change? What are the objections you have about this change? What is your biggest concern as it relates to us making this change? And collect that information. Empower yourself with their insights and use it as a leader to then share your message in a compelling and influential way. Please use your powers for good. We don't want to manipulate people. We want to show them with transparency where we're coming from and where we want to go and enlist them to be part of the journey that we're embarking on together. This is going to be very difficult to do unless you have visibility. Visibility is showing up. Is showing up in rooms where the discussions are happening, is being invited to rooms where decisions and critical decisions are being made. And that's going to be hard to do unless you become a more visible leader. I also mentioned in what I just said that you get invited. You will not get invited unless you are already cultivating relationships with the influencers in your company. Make yourself a map. Who are the people who are influential in my organization, where people listen to them, respect them, people want to hear what they have to say, and people follow them? Who are those individuals? Put them down on your map and then begin to create those relationships with them. I talk about this so much in my programs. We call this your centers of influence diagram. And this is where we build out relationships and cultivate them in a way that supports your leadership. So begin to craft very succinct touch point messages for them, such as, "Hi, Ginny. I know you're just starting initiative ABC, and I know that you are one of the visionaries. Would you be open to a 15-minute cyber coffee where we can talk a little bit more about your vision and how it intersects with the work that I do in this function that I have?" It's very unlikely that a leader will say to you, "Sorry, I'm closed. I don't want to have this 15-minute cyber coffee with you." I'm telling you that right now. So it's very likely they're going to say, "Absolutely, 15 minutes, I can do that." Follow that with, "I am available next week, Thursday or Friday after 12. What works for you?" Now, notice that takes initiative, number one, intention, because you're in a very strategic way inserting yourself to build these relationships and cultivate them, not as a transaction, as a relationship. And I'm going to get curious about the person. I'm going to look them up on LinkedIn. I'm going to find out what they're up to within the company. I'm going to Google them to see if they've been at any conference recently so I can watch any video they have on YouTube about the conference or the site where this event happened. I'm going to do my homework about these influential people that I'm looking to connect with. And then when I meet with them, I'm going to be honest. I'm going to be open. I'm going to express again why we're meeting. I'm going to make sure that I keep track of the time. So when 15 minutes are up, I can say, "I know we're coming up on time and I want to be respectful of your time." And most likely they'll say, "Oh, I have another 5 minutes." And you have 5 more minutes to talk. If they don't, say, "Thank you so much for your time. Would you be open to me connecting with you again in a couple of months and check in with you?" And most people will say, "Absolutely. Let's do this again." Now, let's be realistic. There will be instances where that doesn't happen because there was no chemistry. It was awkward. It didn't feel organic, or it just didn't quite vibe. And that's okay. You made the introduction, you took the initiative, you stood out. So that's how we can stand out and how we can increase our visibility and how we can increase our influence within our organization. And remember the why. Ultimately, the why is so that you can support your team and your company in implementing the changes that are required so that we can all get in front of the tsunami. Remember, that's where we started. Whenever you feel like I am trying and I'm failing, it's only failure if you have a fixed mindset and if you don't ask yourself, what am I learning from this experience? As long as you're learning something, I don't call that a failure. I call that learning. And that's where we also started. Let's adapt a learning mindset, which is not usually where we go as senior leaders. So now that you have this strategy for connecting with influencers within your company, and you can now use that leverage to get invited into those meetings where typically you're not invited. And when you're in those meetings, contribute from a place of These are my superpowers. These are the areas that I'm an expert in. This is what I know about the team, about the company, about the technology, about whatever it is that you're trying to insert yourself into, and contribute versus try to look good. When we try to look good, we take up too much space. We speak up just to speak up and hear our voice. And we're not listening because we're too busy thinking about what are we going to say next. So show up fully. Listen to everyone. Give your insights. Share them. Share your knowledge. Share your expertise from a place of contribution and of service. And ensure that you let your voice matter. And that's how we do it. Now, notice sometimes we feel intimidated to be in those rooms. And that's because we are comparing ourselves to the people in that room. And I will say this to you. You are in your own league. When we compare ourselves to others, there will always be someone who's worse than us, and there will always be someone who's better than us. So comparison does nothing but create problems in our confidence. So I would say stick to your expertise, be grounded in what you contribute and bring to the table. And knowing that, walk into those rooms with your shoulders back, your chin up, an open heart, an open mind, and open ears. And think of yourself as somebody who has the ability to listen and the ability to contribute. Make this a dance between you and the people in that room. Because obviously you could dance by yourself, but it's much more fun when you have a dance with someone else. So see yourself dancing with other people in that room. And then when you leave, ask yourself, how many people did I dance with in this room that I just walked in? And if you didn't dance with anybody, that means you did not engage, which is no bueno, as I always say to my son and my boyfriend. Number two, if you notice you didn't dance with many people, that means that you were holding back and playing small. And playing small doesn't serve anyone, especially you, and ultimately your team and your company. The third thing is, notice if you dance too much, meaning that you didn't listen enough. So engaging is a beautiful thing. Having the self-awareness of how you're engaging in that room is going to give you a lot of insights as to how to tweak and pivot going forward. My friends, visibility is your gateway to influence. And if you're afraid to be visible, for whatever reasons, we need to talk, because we need to ensure that you increase your visibility in a positive way. We don't want you to be the bully who gets visibility. We want you to be the thoughtful leader who gets the visibility to then be able to influence the decisions that are being made about your team, about your department, etc., and leverage that to elevate the people and help your company be future ready, which is where we already are. We're not going there. We're already there. And all we're trying to do is build boats so that when the tsunami hits, we're on the boats and everybody's safe. How does that sound to you? What have I shared today that has touched a nerve for you? What have I mentioned that you can begin to implement immediately in your leadership that will support you to become the type of leader who is future ready and who is elevated enough to know you can lead yourself and lead your team? Whatever that is, leave me a message, leave me a comment, and let me know. I would really appreciate your feedback. And whenever you are ready to elevate with us at Executive Bound, I invite you to visit our website at drginnybaro.com/events. And that way we can help you and support you as an individual and as an organization who is looking to get your leaders future ready, because the AI era is here to stay. And all we're doing is adapting our leaders and helping them to be the leaders of the future. So we can be part of that 65% of new jobs that haven't been created. So we could be one of those third of all the jobs that will be upskilled and reskilled. We want to bring our teams along with that. And that's going to take true leadership, the kind of leadership that is focused on the future. Thank you for joining us today. It has been a pleasure to be with you. Don't forget to visit drginnybaro.com/events and join us. And if you want to bring us in to discuss the state of your team and how we can support them to get AI adoption ready, I will be more than happy to have a discovery call and connect with you. Live with purpose, live with joy. We will see you at the next episode. I cannot wait. If you enjoyed today's content, I appreciate your review so others can find us, and share it with your friends. And to stay in touch, join our community to receive valuable strategies and expert advice at drginnybaro.com. See you soon.